topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Churchill said, "Those who fail to learn from history are condemned to repeat it." Kevin Hallinan believes that certainly applies to business. Welcome to Winning Business Radio, here at W4CY Radio. That's W4CY.com. And now, your host, Kevin Hallinan.
Thanks, everybody, for joining in today. I am Kevin Hallinan, and welcome back to Winning Business TV and Radio. We're on W4CY.com. We're streaming live on Talk4, that's the number 4TV.com, in addition to Facebook, and that's at Winning Business Radio. And, of course, we're available after the live show on whatever platform your favorite is to watch and listen to podcast content. That's YouTube, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple, and the list goes on. The mission of Winning Business Radio and TV, as regular viewers and listeners know, is to offer insights and advice to help people avoid the mistakes of others, right? To learn best practices. Those are the how-tos, the what-tos, the what-not-tos. And I hope to be challenged and to be inspired by the successes of others. Who are those others? They're consultants, coaches, advisors, authors, founders and owners, entrepreneurs, people with expertise. But, you know, virtually every successful person that I've had a chance to talk to has had some form of failure in their lives and careers. So I say it every week, while we all have to get our knees skinned, once in a while, I'm driven to keep those scrapes from needing major surgery. Let's endeavor to learn from history so we don't repeat it. I've spent the better part of my career equipping businesses to grow, and that's from solopreneurs to small and medium-sized businesses all the way up to the Fortune 50. I've seen a lot of those companies win, and to varying degrees, I've seen some fail. I've had the opportunity to rub elbows with some of the highest performing people around and with some of those that probably should have found other professions. So in my own businesses, I've had lots of success, but some failures too. So I like to think I've learned a lot. So you're going to hear from me, but mostly you're going to hear from those guests. And today I'm excited to have Cruz Gamboa. He's founder and chief strategist and CFO of Ascend Growth Ventures. Here's his bio. Cruz Gamboa is an NYU MBA, holds a bachelor's in economics with a minor in business from UT Austin, Hook'em Horns, is a former CEO, corporate executive, and a seasoned scaling up business coach with a passion for helping ambitious CEOs and mid-market companies increase profits, boost valuation, and drive meaningful impact. With deep expertise in corporate finance, strategy, and executive leadership, Cruz has served in pivotal roles, most notably as regional CFO for GE Gas Power Latin America, where he led high-growth initiatives that broke records and set new benchmarks. Today, Cruz combines the power of the scaling up framework with exponential thinking and decades of CFO experience to help businesses scale with clarity and confidence. He's the author of Drive from Within, a guide for leaders seeking purposeful, sustainable success without the chaos. At the core of Cruz's approach is the scaling up methodology by Vern Harnish. Some of you are familiar, many probably are. And that enables teams to streamline operations, align around strategy, improve cash flow, and eliminate roadblocks to growth. For visionary founders ready to think beyond incremental progress, Cruz also brings in the bold principles of exponential organizations, EXO, by Salim Ismail, empowering businesses to harness technology, automation, and disruptive models to 10x their value and reach. Cruz is committed, we both should be convicted, committed environmental advocate and renewable energy investor. He's a certified life coach and has been coaching and mentoring high performers for 2 decades while in the corporate world. He's lived in multiple companies and speaks 3 languages, Spanish, English, and Portuguese. When not working, he's an enthusiastic reader, often drawn to leadership and personal development books. He's also a studio recording artist with songs on Spotify. He's passionate about tennis and snowboarding and enjoying an active and creative lifestyle. And of course, he's a dedicated father of 2, and he resides in Framingham, Massachusetts. Cruz, welcome to Winning Business Radio.
Thank you so much, Kevin. And thank you for having me here. And I'm really excited to be here and have this conversation with you today.
Me too.
Thank
Me
you for
too.
that intro. That was it's always an opportunity to reflect on my
Yeah.
own life when I hear these things from other people's mouths. So I
Same.
appreciate that.
All right. Just quickly, I want to talk a little bit about background. First, just tell us about your two children.
My two children, Maximo and Abril. So Maximo is 17. He is now a senior in high school. He's crushing it. He's doing really well in
Nice.
school, and he wrestles. And
Nice.
he made the varsity team, even though it was like his second year into the program. So he's doing really well. And Abril she's going to college at Bentley, and she also crushes it. She showed me her report card, and it was really good. And I was
Nice.
really proud of her because when she was in high school, we have a little questions on how good of a student she was going to be, but she turned out to be an amazing athlete. So yeah.
Excellent. Good for her and good for you too. So tell us where you grew up.
I grew up in Venezuela. I was born in Venezuela, and then I left when I was 17, came to college here in the US. And then after that, I joined first Unilever and then General Electric, and I worked across Latin America, here in the States. And that's been sort of my sandbox between some places in Latin America and here in the US.
Well, we're going to touch on those. What were your early interests? So high school, early college?
Honestly, it was I was a computer nerd, to be honest, and a musician. So those were the two things that really inspired me. I played golf a lot as well. At least 3 times a week. I got to be relatively good. 11 handicap. So I mean, that's not great, but it was good for me.
For an amateur.
But then after, when in my sort of my adolescent years, when I hit like 16, it was not so cool to play golf. I had other interests.
Yeah.
But yeah, for a while it kept me going.
So my two sons, both of them had little overlap in location, but they both got a chance to either caddy, or one of them actually helped run a pro shop, and they got to golf a lot too. So my golf game is not what you consider a game. I go by the rule of you don't have to be good, just don't be slow.
That's right. And it's interesting. I play from time to time, and I still have it a little bit. But I wouldn't trust myself to go in a tournament. So
unless it's best ball, then you can't. It's good for everybody. All right. So why did you choose, Venezuelan kid? Why did you choose to go to UT Austin? We know you majored in economics and business. So why UT Austin, and why that focus?
Look, at the time I had friends and family in Austin, and I figured that if I was already making a leap and leave my family behind, it would probably make sense to be at a place that I knew other people, and I had a little bit of a network. As you know me, and I'm big on family, so I figured it would be best for me to be closer to family. So. And also, by the way, I visited the UT campus, and I just fell in love with it. I was just like, I'm going to come here. I already knew when I went to visit it, I knew that I was going to get in. So I was really determined to go there.
City, but small city, not New York, right? Although you ended up in New York, but small city, offers a ton. I mean, you kept it weird, I'm assuming.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. And you got to
It is not that weird anymore, actually.
Yeah, it's definitely grown. So Unilever was soon after college?
It was just soon after college. I had a job. It was like, I think it was like 24 hours a day. I was just working so much. I vaguely, like when I think about it, I vaguely remember those days because I was literally like from 8 to like 10 p.m. every day, just closing the books, financial analysis, like the next year's plan, profitability analysis. They really got a lot from me during those times.
Well, good news is in your early 20s, you don't need a lot.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
You just go on fumes all the time. All right. When did you and what motivated you getting your MBA?
It was kind of like I was already working at GE Capital, and I had just left NBC because I worked at NBC Universal for a while in New York City, and I just felt that I needed a little plus in sort of in my career, in my sort of in my education as well. I felt that, I mean, I went to school for economics with a business minor, and I just felt that I needed a little bit more. I needed to learn more about like private equity, about valuation and stuff like that. And I felt that NYU was probably one of the best schools. Actually, I was really lucky that I was there in New York City.
Yeah.
And I got to apply and got in. It was the only school that I applied to for an MBA, to be honest, and I got in. So it was really good.
Outstanding. So big question, and you can think about it, but what was your biggest takeaway from getting the MBA?
Wow.
And maybe that's even plural. I know that's a big question.
Yeah, it's a big question, because back then, the sort of the biggest takeaway was just really getting to know the professors. I met some really amazing professors, and I also made some friendships that I still I'm in touch with. And to be honest, I think now when I look in hindsight, I think it's probably more interesting to when you look at things in perspective, because at the moment I was just really excited to begin an MBA. It was all about how I felt. Now I have this title, right?
Yeah.
But now I look back in time, and I think I learned a ton for sure. But I think, interestingly enough, I think it's really the experience of going through some real life business problems, and that is, to me, the best education that you can have, right? And I think General Electric was a great place for that. It was I was surrounded by really top-notch leaders and peers, and I learned a ton from them. So it helped me. It augmented my skill sets, my expertise. If I have to put, sort of like summarize it, what is the one thing that it did for me was confidence.
Oh, good. That's good. Love that. All right. Tell us about the position at Unilever. And this is building kind of your backstory, right? How you got to where you are. And when we get past the break here in another few minutes, not in a hurry, but people will understand better how you're able to do the work that you do. Tell us what you learned describe the role and tell us what you learned at Unilever.
At Unilever, they call it a marketing accountant, which it sounds kind of like an oxymoron if you ask me. But but basically what I did, I was just the sort of financial analyst for product lines. And back then I had personal care and detergents. So I was the guy with the most expertise and most knowledge on the financial aspects of all of the brands in those two categories. And it seems like it wouldn't be a lot of work, but it was a lot of work, because we had to know basically all of the details of all of the ingredients, the cost of every ingredient, aggregating the cost, and looking at the pricing, looking at the competition, analyzing which SKUs were more profitable versus not. Looking at the different channels, because there's a channel segmentation for when you're in the distribution industry, especially for personal care. So you have tremendous amount of segmentation in the channels that you sell into. So understanding all of that and aggregating all the data and being able to provide management and the sort of the product leaders with intelligence on how to position the brands was quite an undertaking, and that was my responsibility. I started. I was very junior at the time. I had a couple of mentors that sort of like taught me what I needed to know, and then I kind of like took off on my own. But it was super interesting. I mean, a lot of the stuff that I apply today, especially when it comes to understanding profitability and just getting sort of just doing market analysis and decision making on channel distributions and all that. It comes from those days, all the stuff that I learned back then.
Yeah, I'm sure I've seen companies that are focused on an area and they don't realize it's one of their least profitable items. And then they look over, with guidance, they look at another product line and realize how profitable it is, but they're not focused on selling it. So
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Correct.
that's important. All right, now to GE. How did you land the position at GE, the first one? And you were in Latin America at the time.
Playing golf.
There you
Yeah.
go. That's an awesome lesson.
Yeah, I
Yep.
was at the golf
Yep.
course. I, you
Yep.
know, I went to play on by myself, and they say, "Hey, do you wanna play with this guy?" And I was just like, "Sure." He was the CEO of GE Lighting at the time, and there was an operation there in my city in Venezuela back then, because I was there for a couple of years,
Hmm.
and so we just started playing together, and he told me what he did. I told him
You
what
didn't
I did.
embarrass him that badly, apparently.
No, he was okay. I still beat him, but he was okay. Yeah. So towards the end, he's like, "You know what? I think this was a great conversation, and I think you'll be great
Mm,
you will
mm,
be an amazing talent for the FMP, which is the financial management program."
mhm.
And I was just like, "Sure, let's talk." So we exchanged information. That was I think on a Saturday. He on Thursday next week, I was interviewing with him. Then the week after, I interviewed with somebody else, and then I was in.
All right, that's a good time to take our first commercial break. That was your first stint at GE. You went elsewhere. We're going to get to that story in a minute, and you ended up back. So, but everybody, we'll be back in about 1 minute with Cruz Gamboa.
You're listening to Winning Business Radio with Kevin Hallinan on W4CY Radio. That's W4CY.com. Don't go away. More helpful information is coming right up, right here on Winning Business Radio.
Have you ever dreamt of being on the radio? Well, now is your chance. Be a radio show guest on the #1 ranked internet radio station and promote you and your business for free. Yes, you heard it, free. Business advertising right here on W4CY.com. Call 561-506-4031 now to get booked on one of our shows. That's 561-506-4031. Get your free advertising now.
And now back to Winning Business Radio with Kevin Hallinan, presenting exciting topics and expert guests with one goal in mind: to help you succeed in business. Here once again is Kevin Hallinan.
All right, we are back with Cruz Gamboa. Before I jump in, just so the audiences know, we're going to be proud to engage one of our key sponsors. Will be Bestien Wealth Management in the weeks coming. So I'm excited about that. All right, so you had two significant positions: manufacturing finance manager, but also leading the digitalization of orders, sales, and all the back end. And you went through Six Sigma also.
Yeah. So back then, when GE was going through the whole Six Sigma campaign, right? It was like everybody had to be a green belt or a black belt and all of that. And I had the opportunity to basically do this digitization project for all of the order, sales, and reporting for the GE Industrial Systems business. And it was a huge undertaking, because back then, I mean, I'm talking, this is a long time ago,
Yeah.
2 decades ago, probably.
Yeah. Yeah.
The reports were not as automated. Everything was done through Excel. It was just very manual, and it was very cumbersome, right? And the problem was that not only did we back then, Industrial Systems was it's a very complicated business, because it had, I want to say, like 60 plants. I don't recall the exact number, but it was just a ton of plants. And we needed to get like every day orders and sales numbers from 60 different plants across the globe every day, so that we could actually deliver to the CEO of the company. So it was quite an undertaking back then. Today, those things would be easy, but back then it was a ton of work. And it was something that I personally, I think I'm very proud, because nobody believed that we were going to pull it off. And it turned out that over time, all of that data, became completely digitized. We designed what we call the digital cockpit, which was basically like a command center for orders and sales information, not only for the CEO, but now for the middle management, and basically for anybody who wanted to see sort of the orders and sales information for the business. So that was a big project, and I was kind of like the project manager, not from the technical side, but from sort of the SME, the subject matter expert side. So yeah.
Well, we'll get to this in a second, but there had to have been success and good visibility because you landed back at GE. But tell us about NBC Universal for about 2.5 years at 30 Rock.
Yes. So this is right around the time when the NBC was acquiring Universal, and they had a shortage of finance leaders in the new business. So I had an opportunity to work there in the business development group as a finance manager. I thought that was very interesting. And it was sort of aligned with what I wanted to do next. I wanted to do more transactional work and be working on, sort of the business development side of GE. So it was a cool transition for me. We incubated a couple of projects organically. We worked a lot on some potential acquisitions. And I got to see a lot of, the new technologies, which are obviously, they're not new anymore. They're obsolete. But back then, for example, one of the things that we were doing was to try to get the NBC sort of channel, a version of it on a cell phone. So I'm actually dating myself. So this is, back then, it used to be.
This was 04, 06, yeah.
Yeah, it was a long time ago. So 20 years ago. So but back then, that was a big undertaking to be able to actually like watch television on your cell phone. That was unheard of.
They weren't iPhones.
Yes, I
they may have been, but they weren't what they are today, right?
Yeah, there's actually I have a funny story about that, because it was 2000, around 2003, 2004, and I was working with this guy. Salil Davis, I think it was his name. And I told him, you know what? I actually have an MP3 player. Wouldn't it be cool to have an MP3 player that was also your phone? And he's like, and he said he was the head of technology development for the business development group. It's like, that will never work, Cruz. Because every time you try to put two things that do different things into one component, it just doesn't, from a technology standpoint, that we don't do that. And like
That's funny.
Steve Jobs, announced the whole iPhone, and I never got to say gotcha.
He might be listening, so you never know. My wife and I watched a show called Murdoch Mysteries. It's a Canadian broadcast, and it's set in the late 1800s to early 1900s. And they do a lot of jokes like that. It'll never fly. So it's like, imagine if we could all be connected by they didn't use the word computer because, think about the time. But they would bring in characters like Tesla and Edison and, inventors of the day. And this detective's way ahead of his time. He's like an inventor himself. But they foretell things humorously. And it's always, never mind. It'll never work. All right. So you landed back at GE. How did that happen? And then you've had some really progressive roles during that. That was almost 20, 8.5 and then another 9 years, right? I counted the first 8.5 as in Connecticut and Latin America, and then GE Verona. I want you to talk about that too.
Vernova. So
Vernova.
So like right after NBC, I went to GE Capital, and I love GE Capital. My experience in there was the best. I learned so much. I used to be an underwriter back then, so my responsibility was to just basically look at different credit applications, work with the sales team to just shepherd all of the different credit application processes, take them to the credit committees, get them approved, structure, close, funded, and then monitor the credits after they were closed. So that was tremendous opportunity.
For context, at least then, it's probably more now, but what were the revenues of GE Capital at that time? They were into everything, medical.
Oh my God.
They could finance anything.
I don't recall, but I gotta say it was like $70 billion.
Yeah,
It's like ridiculous.
huge, right?
It was huge amount of it was. I mean, I want to say the GE Capital was one of the largest fincos in the world back then. I mean, it was.
I think so.
Amazing. Yeah.
So you came back as a VP, structured finance underwriter, middle market cash flow.
Yeah, that was my role.
That's the one, right?
Yeah.
And then managing director. Actually, that was Connecticut, and then Latin America. Managing director of capital markets. They wanted to bring you back.
So speaking of like one thing leads to another, right? So I was 6 years into GE Capital, and sort of Latin America was opening up again, and GE was making a huge bet to grow the Latin region. And they asked me, given my background, if I wanted to be redeployed back to Latin America to basically be in charge of developing the capital markets team. And initially it was not I was reporting to some other guy, but eventually I got, I became the sort of the lead guy. But what we did was basically to secure capital, whether that was debt or equity, for big projects where GE had its technology. And mostly what I ended up doing was helping the sort of the gas turbine business, because they were the ones that required the most capital. It was the biggest projects, and sort of my marquee deal in that role was closing an $850 million deal in Argentina, which took a year and a half to from like start to finish to close. And like it was one of the deals that actually got me promoted to executive. Because again, one of those things where people were like, that will never close.
Love it.
And it did.
Just tell Cruz what he can't do, right?
I think, you know what? I'm starting to see the pattern, Kevin.
Yeah. All right. I have an interesting question, at least on the roll. Decarbonization strategy, that's a much more carbon footprint related environmental concern, correct?
Well, so here's what happened. So this is a more recent, right? So fast forward till
right.
I think
4 now we're at 21.
Yeah, 4 years ago.
Yeah,
I had the opportunity to basically help the GE Gas Power Systems business to develop the hydrogen and carbon capture business for the Americas, basically. North America and Latin America, but mostly, to be honest, between you and I, it was mostly the US at the time. And my responsibility was to take the existing technologies that we had and just put a commercial framework on how to sell them and find projects and clients that would be interested in adopting those technologies so that we can decarbonize the fleet, because I guess the thought at the time was that we wanted to make the gas turbine fleet as green as possible, so that they could continue to run in the long run. Because like any other turbine manufacturing business, you have two ways of making money. You make money by selling the actual turbine and by servicing it, right? So GE had a vested interest in staying sort of green and keeping the gas turbines out of the sight of environmentalists.
That's right.
So that I was doing that. I did it for like over a year, and then I went to I went to a startup in carbon capture. So it was very another technology that was very much in line with what I had been doing at General Electric.
All right, we're going to take our second break, and then we're going to get back into how you decided you wanted to move into coaching and developing others for their scalability. Okay, we'll be right back.
Thank you.
You're listening to Winning Business Radio with Kevin Hallinan on W4CY Radio. That's W4CY.com. Don't go away. More helpful information is coming right up, right here on Winning Business Radio.
The YP.com website is your local search engine. If you're looking for a good restaurant, it can help you find the right one nearby with ratings and reviews. Or if your car breaks down, you can use the YP app to find the closest repair shop. Or maybe you're just looking for something to do on a Friday night. Well, it has great local coupons for all sorts of things in your area. No matter what, when, or where, if you're looking for something, YP Local Search can help you find it. So go to yp.com or download the app to search local, find local, and save local.
And now back to Winning Business Radio with Kevin Hallinan, presenting exciting topics and expert guests with one goal in mind: to help you succeed in business. Here once again is Kevin Hallinan.
That's my 10-year-old headshot, by the way. How did you, so there's a question we ended with. We'll start here. How did you know you wanted to start working with others? And you had been doing mentoring, I know, during GE as an executive, et cetera. But how did you know you wanted that to be your full-time passion?
Well, that's a great question. So initially, like when I decided to start my own business, I was doing mostly just kind of like the same things that I was doing before, just the CFO work. And I was doing some M&A as well, on the sell side. And so in the context of me working with small businesses, I realized that it was kind of like easy for me to sort of see what they were not seeing, because well, first of all, I worked on more mature businesses in a corporation, which is, already has processes and everything kind of works to some extent. So I knew what a good process looked like. Okay. And I also realized that all of my financial background that I kind of took for granted was just very, very valuable and useful for founders in sort of the $1 to $10 million range. The reason being is that a lot of founders just they have really great ideas. They're probably good at sales, good at product, but maybe they're not good at, finance. And they don't have to be. Not everybody has to be a waste on finance, right? But I figured that there was a lot of value that I could add on the finance side to these founders. And then additionally, I started noticing something that even caught my attention even more, is that a lot of the problems that most founders are facing between $1 and $10 million in revenue are really mindset related. And this was actually fascinating to me, because I have been investing a lot of time, and I've done a lot of like coachings and programs on personal development. And I figured there was an opportunity to actually help founders by bringing these three things together: finance, mindset, and strategy. And typically when you talk to certain coaches, some coaches are more on the sort of the mindset side. Others are more like maybe on the strategic side, or maybe on the tactical side.
Right.
I'll coach you on how to be a better sales leader, for example. Do you know anybody like that? But what I've noticed, and I know to be absolutely the truth, is that most business problems are mindset problems.
Yeah.
I mean, you can call it whichever way you want, but if you're facing a business problem and you think there's no other solution, and you think that you are constrained by these things that you identified as problems in your mind, the minute you change the way that you look at the problem that you're looking at change, and you find a solution. So if that is not a mindset, then I don't know what is mindset. But that was my observation. So
I was going to add, if you think the problem is unsolvable, you're right at first, right?
At first, right.
That's how you look at it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I figured there was an opportunity to bring those three things together and make it more powerful. And that's basically, I mean, as I think we've spoken about this before, I developed my IP on top of the scaling up methodology. Yeah, because that's sort of my core framework. Yeah. But I figured that framework also needed additional things like mindset and sort of the financial insights to basically scaling a company. And that's and specifically, I mean, I would say that this is more specifically for smaller companies, because if you're talking about scaling a $300 million company, you probably have a CFO, so you probably have good financial systems. So the finance is no longer as important. Maybe there are other aspects, but I'm talking specifically about my ideal client profile, which is from 1 to 10. That is definitely a product and a way of going to market that works for them.
So in addition to mindset, well, cover those 3 areas, but I've heard you say that most founders get stuck, right? When they reach between 3 and 7. Why is that a tipping point? Million, 3 and 7.
Constraint theory.
Go ahead.
Okay, so constraint theory. So basically, constraint theory says that a process, or in this case, a business, will grow until it reaches a constraint, and then it will grow no further. Okay, it's the same thing when you are starting your business. You're sort of in survival stage, right? You're a startup and you're just trying to get to product market fit. You're trying to just basically gain clients,
become profitable.
Become profitable, get leads, all of the things that, maybe attract people, hire people,
build partnerships,
all of those things. You're focused on that. And then at some point you are the business, right? You have kind of like helpers around you that are helping you. But eventually you reach a point where that play is no longer viable. Because why? Because you went from maybe having 10 clients to now you have 150 clients. And the processes that you came up when you only had 10 clients, they don't really scale when you are like 150 or 200 clients. And maybe the delivery, right? It was easy to deliver to 10 clients, but if you have 100 clients that you need to delivering in different locations or different products with different specifications, that's when things get stuck and problems happen. And then most of your time then goes from thinking about the strategy and the growth of the future. You spend most of your time now in the weeds trying to fix problems. And then because you're tied into fixing the problems, you have no time to think about how, who are the new talents that you need to recruit, or who, like, what is the next thing for your company? What are the areas where you need to improve, because you're so into the details. And this is where, with my methodology, what we do is basically try to identify how to free you up in the first 90 days. So that's my mission in the first 90 days.
90 days, yeah.
I want to make sure that we create the space for you to be able to take a step back so that we can actually start thinking about the growth of your company. Because if we don't do that, then even if we do the work, what's going to happen is that you're not going to have time, you're not going to have the conviction, and we're not going to be able to successfully implement all the things that we need to do in order to get the company moving into the next level. So it really requires a sort of a mindset shift of going from what I call being a firefighter. Okay. And I don't mean that in a derogatory fashion. Sure. It's just a tag. From firefighter to architect. Okay. So that's where we
reactive to proactive.
Reactive right? to proactive. So when you're an architect, you're creating systems. The systems kind of like run the processes. You have metrics. You have a team that has a clear objective. They have KPIs that they know they're being measured on. You have execution rhythms, so that every week, every month, every quarter, you're revisiting the results, making changes, improving things. You have a way to measure whether people are being effective or not in their job, and maybe have a way to help them so that they can get to the next level. All of those things is basically just putting processes. Is the structure for running your company more smoothly and in a way that requires less intervention from you, that's what we want.
Yeah. Beyond the founder, right?
Beyond the founder, because in the end, it doesn't mean that you are like removing yourself from the business, but what you want to be is you want to be free to be able to say, you know what, now my business needs me here, and like I need to basically help the sales leader do whatever it is that we need to do to double our sales. Or now I need to spend more time on the delivery, because if we fix that constraint on the delivery side, we're going to be able to serve twice in the number, the amount of clients. So these are the kinds of things where you need to have that flexibility and that sort of availability to be able to choose what are the next steps and how do you best allocate your time, and also have planning time for yourself, for the business.
So it's the headspace and the time to be, for example, creative. What else could the company do? What are the products and or services we could be offering that we're not now? All right, you've identified 6 top areas of concern. Touch on these briefly. Cash flow chaos, you call it.
Oh man, cash flow chaos. So you know how a lot of companies, well, you probably have listened to some of your clients in the past where they, they're running somewhat successful companies, maybe $2-3 million, and they feel like they're always cash strapped. Cash is, it's just tight. Okay. And then sometimes they say, well, clients are not paying as well. They're not paying, not paying on time, or I'm having issues because of the competition and all of those things. And I happen to pin all of those excuses in the mindset sort of a bin. Okay. Because they are really mindset. Because the minute you change the offer or the way that you deliver the business, or maybe the kind of clients that you have, all of these issues can be solved. Obviously not immediately, but with the intention to finding a solution to that problem, you can create the conditions to be able to have a business that generates better cash flow. And I mean, there's plenty of stories about businesses that were like burning cash, and they were like cash strapped, and then they make a change, and then they became, cash positive. So it is possible to do that, but it requires time and dedication, right? You need to go into it and like put some thought into, well, is this kinds of clients or these kinds of products or these types of products that are generating the issue? And for that, you need to have the time and the patience to be able to go through the process of identifying where are the areas that can be improved, and then what are the things that you can do to continue to retain the clients, but in a different capacity where they're, they are worth much more to you because they pay better.
Outstanding. You touched on the CEO bottleneck. You want to touch more on that?
The CEO bottleneck. Wow. So this is where we have the belief. Sometimes some founders have the belief that their team is not good enough, that if they don't fix the issues in their company, nobody will, and that they are the only individual that can do so. And they have this, what I call kind of like this hero complex. Okay. And when that happens, it's really easy to convince yourself that feels very true, and that's the only reality that makes sense. But the reality is that if you really want to scale your company, you can be in the center of every decision. I mean, that is just, I mean, if you want to put a name to it, that's just physics, right? I mean, if you're in the middle of everything, the system can only grow or can only scale as you have the capacity to give yourself your time, etc. And we all know that we are still humans for now, right? And we have a limited capacity in our time, in our sort of brain power. And so you can become the constraint for growth in your own company.
I watched my dad, as smart as he was, as educated as he was, never take vacations. There was a period of time where he just felt like he couldn't step away from his company. He didn't equip anybody. Execution overload.
Execution overload. So I would say for this one, it's when you basically when you have a team of people that are doing processes that are broken. Okay. And they are trying to do the best they can with the processes that they have. And eventually they start to break over and over again to the point that it becomes a major point of tension in the organization. And then nobody really knows sometimes, or sometimes you do know, but you don't know how to fix it. Okay, because again, to fix something, it requires time. And if you don't have time, and if you don't have enough capacity to be able to understand, process map the process, and make the changes, retrain the people, give them install a better system, and do the thing that you need to do in order to make it better, then your execution continues to be capped for as long as you don't fix this problem.
All right. Hiring feels like a gamble.
Hiring feels like a gamble. That happens when you don't have a system for hiring.
Yeah.
And a lot of, I don't know if you've heard or you've experienced this, but I've seen a couple of former clients of mine. They were just desperate. They just wanted people.
Warm bodies.
Yeah. Right. And there was no reflection about whether those individuals were aligned with their values, that the job, that they had all the capabilities required to do the job at hand, and that they, and also more importantly, like even if they brought them into the organization, they didn't have a good onboarding system to make sure that they were teed up for success. Because when you hire somebody, it's not just getting them into the company, it's just also onboarding them and getting them through the process so that they know exactly what their job is, they have all the right tools, and they have the authority to make the decisions that they need to make in order to be successful in their job. And if you don't equip them with that, then it's just I mean, they're not going to be successful. That's really what it is.
All right, sales and marketing plateau, and then we have one more, and we are almost out of time.
Sales and marketing plateau it's typically driven by what we just discussed, the theory of constraints, right? You know, the play that you were running, the product that you were selling. You know, eventually you run out of people to sell it to,
Or the market changes.
And I mean, but it's really, it comes down to theory of constraint at the end of the day. And once you figure it out, what about the way that you're going to market needs to change, and you make the changes, then that's when you unlock the growth again.
Last, financial blind spot.
Wow. I'll tell you something, and I'm sure you're going to appreciate what I'm about to say, but I can assure you that any business that you put in front of me, or anybody for that matter, if you really, really dig deep, you're going to find that it's leaking cash somewhere. It is almost an impossibility to find a business that is 100% financially optimized. There's always an opportunity to find either more cash or more profits for those who are committed to finding more cash and more profit. Think about that.
Wow,
it's almost like,
it's alarming almost, right?
It's alarming because we're constantly leaving money on the table, and it's just a lot of money or less money, but there's always something that can be done differently, something that can be sold differently, something that can be delivered differently, something that is being charged incorrectly in a place, so we can't see it. And what happens is a lot of founders are looking at revenue, perhaps gross profit, and maybe overhead, because they want to know that they're not spending more than they're bringing in. Okay, and that's it. And they just want to know that they manage to a budget, but many a times they don't have the financial expertise to go deep, to do product analysis, to understand sort of if there are optimizations on the tax side. You know, there's all these things, all these different aspects of evaluating financials that most people miss. And that's why I'm saying that most founders, I would say, are flying blind.
Well, I wish we had more time. In fact, I will get you back the next, probably after the first of the year. But for now, who in the viewing and listening audiences should reach out to you, and why?
So if you have revenues between $1 and $10 million, and you are a growth-driven founder who want to scale your company and are looking to partner with somebody who can bring sort of expertise, not only on financials, but on strategy, and also the energy of growth, which is something that is cool to have around in your company. That is the kind of founders that I want to work with. And, if you want to look me up, I am on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. Again, Cruz Gamboa, and you can check me out there, and we can connect on LinkedIn or through my website, which is ascendgrowthventures.com. So you can check me out there as well.
Great. This has been fun for me. I'm looking forward to having you back. Thank you for your time, and I really appreciate you being here.
Thank you so much, Kevin. I love this conversation. Thank you.
Thank you. Me too. And thanks everybody for watching and listening. This is a show about business challenges and business successes. If you've got concerns about the sales effectiveness of your company, whether your sales team is you or small or large, feel free to reach out to me. That's on LinkedIn or Facebook at Winning Business Radio. One of my many email addresses, as I often say, is kevin@winningbusinessradio.com. Our company develops sales teams into high achievers and sales leaders into true coaches and mentors. And you can probably see the partnership with Cruz there. We're not a fit for everybody, but maybe we should have a conversation. Thank you, Juan, for another great job. Be sure to join us next week, Monday, September 15th. We'll do it all again. Until then, this is Kevin Hallinan.
You have been listening to Winning Business Radio with your host, Kevin Hallinan. If you missed any part of this episode, the podcast is available on Talk4 Podcasting and iHeartRadio. For more information and questions, go to winningbusinessradio.com or check us out on social media. Tune in again next week and every Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time to listen live to Winning Business Radio on W4CY Radio, W4CY.com. Until then, let's succeed where others have failed and win in business with Kevin Hallinan and Winning Business Radio.